So in this one, we're going to look at the keys to mastery of closing. And right now, you have gained so much in terms of understanding the strategies, the philosophy, but it's about how do we become part of that top 1%? How do we really separate ourselves and have that higher level performance consistently? So the keys to closing mastery that we'll go through in this video. If you follow this, you're going to understand it totally. So the first thing that I would look to suggest is that if you haven't already, get yourself into the Soul Business Empires platform so that you can go through the key of systemization and especially the self-management section. Because if you're able to manage yourself during this process well, then you're going to become a great closer. Because the thing is with closing, if you really want to have the high ticket commissions, you're not going to be able to do it through being an employee. You're going to have to do it through either having your own company, your own organization, or by partnering with another one as an affiliate, which means you're going to be self-employed. So the self-management section is going to make sure that you can keep yourself in check and also that you're going to be able to operate at the highest level. Now, looking at the high performance formula for closing and for anything really is going to be how we determine what will help us in getting the great results consistently. So the formula for high performance is number one, high consistency, right? We need to be able to make sure that we're doing what we're doing again and again and again, over and over and over. If we're not doing it consistently, then we're never going to be able to have high performance. So it's high consistency times by high quality, right? We need to also make sure that what we're doing in terms of the conversations and the process and how we handle objections, things like that, is done with quality. If I have a lot of conversations with people and I was uncertain as my tone in every single one of them, like, what's the point in doing high volume? But here's the thing as well. A lot of people, they see it as though, right, I only need the high consistency or I only need the high quality. I don't need the high volume. I'm the lazy entrepreneur. I'm the one that's going to work smart. So fuck the high volume. It's not what I'm going to do. And to those people, I really do. I pity you for real, because the thing is, you are never going to be able to get your results with being able to just do things with high quality and not high volume. You are never going to be able to beat the person who is going to outwork you. I guarantee you, even if you have the best in terms of high quality. I've seen it time and time again. Because eventually what will happen to the person who's doing high volume is that they're going to get good and they have the work ethic. So if they're going to get good and they have the work ethic, but you only have the quality, you're never going to be able to outwork and beat that person. So look at it from that long-term perspective as well, as who's going to win in the long run. The person who's, just getting results easily and with high quality through working smart, or the person who's working smart and they're working hard. Get both. So next thing is that you want to do something called setting projections and hedging. So setting projections is about you looking at the law of averages, which is just simply how many people have you been able to convert out of the people you spoke with. Looking at your law of averages and deciding on how much activity that you're going to put in based on the profit that you'd like to make. So for example, if you want to make 10,000 this month and you have a product that gives you 5,000 profit per sale, if you speak with two PQLs are just purchase qualified leads, right? It means that it's a highly qualified lead. So it could be that they purchase something low ticket, they purchase one of your books, they purchase one of your programs, they purchase something low ticket. So now that's a high quality lead for your high ticket offer. And so if every single PQL that you spoke with, if you spoke with two of them and on average you get a sale from that, then your forecast for next month in terms of activity wants to be 4 conversations with PQLs, because you calculate it as if once you have 4 conversations, you're going to make 10,000 in that month. Now, here's the thing. Some things can happen which end up becoming excuses as to why you didn't get the results. One person might have a deal fell through, or something happened in terms of the weather or whatever it was that was outside of your control. Right? Hedging is how we can guarantee our success by doing more than what is required from the forecasting for you to reach your goals. So how this would look is that you still have the same 10,000 profit for the month in terms of a target. You have a product that gives you 5,000 profit per sale. And now if you speak with two PQLs, it's the exact same thing. Average, you get 1 sale. But the difference is that to guarantee your success, we're going to do hedging. And instead of hitting the forecast of 4 conversations with PQLs, you're going to aim higher and you're going to aim for 6 or 7. By doing this, the worst case scenario is that you hit your profit target because you've done extra. That's the worst case scenario. You do extra and you hit what you hit with the forecast. The best case scenario is that you exceed. You actually do better than the target. But if you don't hedge, then what will end up happening is that the best case scenario is that you hit the target. The worst case scenario is that you miss. And missing cannot be an option for you if you're going to be a high performance and highly reliable closer. So yeah, that's the high performance section. Now we're looking at the pre and post ritual, which for me has been one of the things that is an absolute necessity if I'm doing closing. If I don't have my pre and post ritual, I know that I'm never going to be able to get the same results day in and day out. It's like it works with anything. There is no one size fits all with this, but whatever you do, have one. Because just like any pro athlete, you must be able to tap into a flow state before entering the arena. Don't ever go in without a warm-up or finish without a cool down. It's just never going to work. Imagine if, somebody was going into the ring with Mike Tyson and they didn't do a single warm-up. It would be freaking suicide going into the ring with Mike Tyson anyway. But without a warm-up, that's just craziness. The pre-ritual, right? Here's an example of what yours could be like. A lot of people focus too much on the pre-ritual and it becoming this thing of where everything takes a long time. You want to be able to condense time as much as possible by doing less of more things. So you don't need to do everything, but you can do maybe 4 or 5 things. Wake up, have a cold shower. It doesn't need to be long. Have a quick one. Read a sales book. You don't need to read the entire book. You don't need to read the entire chapter. Just read 10 pages. And if it's got long pages, don't read 10 pages. Read fewer, right? But do it for 15 minutes, no more. Meditate. Don't need to do 45-minute, an hour freaking meditation. 15 minutes. That's enough. And eventually what will happen is you get better and better and better so that these meditations actually become more powerful over time. Role play. Right? Role play for 15 minutes. Again, doesn't need to take a long time. Too many people, when they go into role play, they end up not doing role play and they talk about role play or they talk about other things. When you get into that moment for 15 minutes, it needs to be role play. And you need to have that accountability with whoever you're doing it with. 9 a.m., listen to good calls. If you're going to do it, make sure that, again, you are listening to those calls during that time and you're paying attention, you're being present. And so the key with the pre-ritual is that whatever you do, making sure that you do it in that time. Don't just have it written down and then do other things during the process. You want to be 100% present in each of these things. Gratitude practice, get that done, start calling. So this is an example. You can do it in a different order. You might be able to take certain things out and replace other things that you think is going to be better use of your time. But this is just an example of what you could have as a pre-ritual. If you want to be able to design one that you feel like is going to be beneficial, but you don't know exactly whether yours is good or not, I would recommend then just sending a message to one of us and we'll be able to help you out. The post-ritual is what you do after you've done your dials, after you've done your calls, after you've done your closing conversations. And the post-ritual, I would always do a breakdown of the day, right? I'd always have that because then I'm reviewing so I can plan for the next day. That's another thing that I would always do. Jim Rohn says it best. He says, never start the day without finishing it. Never start the day without finishing it. So you've always got to put that plan for the next day. 8:30 a.m., yoga, right? I like to do something like this to wind down. But again, you can do whatever it is that you prefer, whatever you want to do. So the spiritual book, you can read that. I like to read spiritual books, mindset books in the end of the day instead of at the beginning of the day, because then I'm a lot more focused on the practical skill sets that's going to help me make my income during the day, and I can go to sleep and be in the dream state of more the spiritual, which is the energetic anyway, different dimension, right? So my dreams are a lot more spiritual when I read the book at night. So a lot of what I've learned from my mentors is that it's not just about having the ingredients, it's about having the right sequence. Making sure that when you do things, you're not just doing it at any point in the day, you're doing it at the right times of the day. Imagine if, you had your sales conversations at 6 a.m. in the morning when nobody's asleep. When nobody's awake and everybody's asleep. That would be stupid. You're not going to make any sales whatsoever. You're just going to get callbacks. That's it. And people barely ever call back because they don't want to. They don't know who you are. So make sure that you get the right sequence throughout the day as well. This is important. Another thing is to understand the concept of what we call pipeline equity. So to understand pipeline equity, first you need to understand what pipeline is, and equity as well. But there's a saying that I want to show you first, which is the riches are in the niches, but the fortune is in the follow-up, right? The riches are in the niches, but the fortune is the follow-up, which means that if you want to be the top 1%, you have to do what the majority of people are not doing. Look at what majority of people are doing, right? 40%, 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. 12% of salespeople only make 3 contacts and stop. Only 10%, if you want to be in the top 10%, this is all you got to do. Make more than 3 contacts with each person. 2% of sales are made on the first contact, which means the minority of sales are going to be made from that first closing call. 3% of sales are made on the second contact. 5% of sales are made on the third contact. 10% of sales are made on the fourth contact. But 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact, which means that if you want to be making sales with that amber light and that audience of people who are more indifferent, you need to be calling them over and over again until you become the only logical option for them. Your pipeline, right? Going back to the pipeline equity, your pipeline is simply the leads who you've generated that are contactable by you. These are the people who you want to be following up with, right? And the equity of your pipeline is defined by how much revenue is sat in there waiting to be closed. So for example, with £1,000 product, if you have 100 leads in your pipeline, that could be 100,000 closable revenue. So your pipeline equity would literally be 100,000 right there, just with 100 leads. This is why you want to follow up, because you need to be able to close those people. Now, here's the thing. You can either add or take away from this pipeline equity number by making offers to your pipeline, which reduces the equity. There's only 1 or 2 options that are going to happen if you make an offer. Either they're going to say, yes, that reduces the equity because you have less people to sell to, or they're going to say no. And because you've made an offer, then it's difficult for you to make a second offer right off the back of that, as they already have said no, right? So the way that you're able to increase your equity is by actually providing value to your pipeline. The more value that you provide to your pipeline, the more that the equity is increased and the higher value products that you can offer. So if you give more and more value, the more that you can just demand a price, because people already know that you're valuable. They have that belief. If you have a small pipeline, it's so much better to provide value and build that equity until it becomes a very high number. So if you only have like 10 people in your pipeline, like, why are you not calling them every day, multiple times a day? For real. If you have a small pipeline, it's so much better to provide value until the equity is a very high number. And the reverse is recommended also. Make more offers if you have a ton of equity. If you have 5,000 people in your email list in your pipeline and you're not making an offer to them every single day, what are you doing? You're leaving so much money on the table. These are people who you can impact and change their lives. So yeah, make sure that you're making more offers if you have a ton of equity, a ton of pipeline. As much as understanding pipeline equity is important, you've also got to manage the pipeline once you've got it. And so what I would recommend when it comes to managing pipeline is that you got to look at your time as being the thing that is scarce, right? Your time is scarce. And so if your time is scarce, you don't need to speak to all 5,000 people on your list. You need to speak with the people who you got to prioritize. This is why you must have a system in place to manage your time effectively and who you speak with most in your pipeline. And the best way to do this is to have a lead scoring system that allows you to prioritize closest to converting prospects with the furthest away. So here's how we do it. We use what we call the MAN qualification, the means, authority, and the need. This is one way that it can be done. And through doing this is the lead scoring system. You can literally score on a scale of 1 to 5 with each of your prospects in your pipeline, where they're at with the means, with the authority, and with the need. And then just like what we did when it came to scoring the 3 scenarios, we get an average number. And that average, we can filter out and see who are the highest people, who are everyone above 4, everyone above 3. And the people the highest are the ones who we prioritize in reaching out to them when we're doing follow-ups with our pipeline every single day. This is what we want to do. So a question that I get asked all the time is, how often should we spend on new prospects versus pipeline? My recommendation is that you spend 80% with new prospects and 20% with new pipeline, because your pipeline is never going to be as large as the new prospects that you've got, most likely, because the least amount of people are going to be the ones that will be the ones that actually engage with you. So if you have a ton of equity that needs to be closed urgently, what I would do is I would switch the other way around, where it's 80% with pipeline and more like 20% with your new prospects. But the thing is, for 99% of closes, this is super rare, especially if you have a great lead generation machine. If you don't have good lead generation, then it's probably going to be majority of the time with the pipeline. But if you have good lead generation, it's going to be 80% with new prospects. Now, here's one thing that people don't like, right? Mostly people don't like role play. I think they're stupid. Reason why is because many entrepreneurs and nothing higher than mediocre closers despise role play. They use wishful thinking to somehow believe that without any practice, that they're going to magically become one of the top 1% just by having conversations with people in regular sales conversations. They believe that they're just going to become the best. Absolute nonsense. Do not fall for this nonsense. If you have a desire to be one of the best, then role play must become your best friend. So what I would recommend is that, like, even if you don't believe me, go and watch the number ones out there. You can go and watch Grant Cardone's content. He has so much live sales role playing that they do within his organization. Why? Because they're the best. And this is what they have to do to become the best. They have to do role play all the time. Think about it from, and again, like an athlete perspective in sports. If you were to go out there into the ring, if you were to go out there into the arena and you didn't do any practice, any sparring whatsoever, you're going to get knocked the fuck out every single time. So instead, this is what we do. We spar, right? This is the role play. The more that you do this, the more confident that you are in the actual fight. So not taking role play seriously and avoiding it at all costs is a complete suicide mission. It's like going into a ring with Mike Tyson. I've said this before, refusing to spar with anyone beforehand and only reading books on how to box, only watching videos on how to box without ever putting on the gloves and stepping in the ring. So role play is like the most important thing when it comes to refining your craft. You always want to record and watch your game footage as well. If you want to take this to the highest level, always record and watch the game footage, because look what the pros do. They analyze after they've been in the game. During the game is when you don't want to analyze. And this is what happens when you don't record your footage. What happens is that during the conversation, you're overly analytical because you're trying to improve, but it's the wrong time to try to improve. Now is the time to execute, when you're actually in the conversation. And so instead of being analytical within, you need to simply take action with non-judgment. And then afterwards, when you've got the game footage and when you've actually got the recording, that's when you can be analyzing what it is that went wrong or what went well, right? That's when you can be doing that, but don't do it during. This is the biggest thing that people get mistaken. Another thing that's really helped me and is just the best thing that you can do if you want to become one of the GOATs, right? One of the greatest of all times, one of the greats, is, well, listen to J. Cole. That's the best thing I can do. I mean, he's got great music, but he also speaks a lot of wisdom. And one of the things that he said is that for him to become who he is right now, he copied the cadence and mirrored the style of the greats, studied the greats, and now I'm the greatest right now. Middle Child, right? That's a great song. But he studied the greats and now he's the greatest right now. He's literally given the blueprint. By studying the greats, you become the greatest right now. So I want to give you some examples of some of the greatest ever closers, right? And the greatest ever salespeople that have come across this earth. On the left-hand side, we've got Bob Proctor. He's a lot more known commonly for his mindset, but I'm telling you, this man was a genius at closing, an absolute genius. So you want to study this man. You want to study this man over here, Zig Ziglar. Again, one of the greats who has got the book, for example, Secrets of Closing the Sale. I'd recommend his Spotify just go on there and listen to secrets of closing the sale, because when you study these greats, ideally you want to be able to see how they sound as opposed to just looking at the words they say in a book, because then you can see how it's done and they'll demonstrate that. We've got Brian Tracy on the left, again, another one of the greats. On the right hand side, we have Joe Girard, who wrote How to Sell Yourself, but also Joe Girard is the only person in history to have broken the record of being the Guinness World Records for selling thousands of cars and automobiles in 1 year. So Joe Girard has an amazing story. I definitely recommend his work. On the left-hand side, there's Dale Carnegie. He wrote the book, How to Win Friends of Influence People, one of the godfathers of personal development. On the right-hand side, Mary Kay Ash. She's one of the absolute all-time greats as well when it comes to sales. More recently, this is probably who you're tuning into if you're not necessarily obsessed, right? If you're just the person who's coming into it and you're more attracted to the lifestyle, the benefits of what you can give you, but you're not necessarily, obsessed about sales and the process and the closing. You haven't developed that love for it yet, then you'll be watching people like Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort. This is good. This is a great place to start, because these are some of the greatest of all times, but they don't go back too far, right? They don't go back all the way to the origin. So I definitely tune into some of their content. Jordan Belfort's Straight Line Persuasion, his course that he has, and his books are great. And Grant Cardone's content that he has, I love his live sales conversations that he does, where you can actually see him closing all the time. So yeah, there's them two. There's also Tony Robbins on the left over here, who was actually mentored by the guy on the right, Jim Rohn. And these are two of the best salespeople, again, that you can learn from, have some great content and books and videos that you can be watching on YouTube to get good. And I'd say that these are probably the most recent ones that I've really started to tune into, who are definitely becoming some of the greatest of all times. Cole Gordon, for example, has pretty much taught like all of those greatest of all times that you've seen. Not the ones from an older age, but like people like Tony Robbins, people like Grant Cardone, people like Jordan Belfort. He's been the sales trainer for them. He's been the one that's handled their sales, a lot of them. So you definitely want to tune into him. He also has the remote Closers.io platform that he created. It's kind of like Uber, but for closers. So this guy like really is an OG and one of the greats. There's on the right-hand side, Alex Hormozi, who is one of the youngest, most successful entrepreneurs right now out there. If you are an entrepreneur and you're business-minded, you 100% know who this guy is. And he's absolutely incredible with the content that he's got. He definitely has a lot of sales content out there too, and I'd recommend tuning into his content. I didn't put another person on here as well, who is someone that I've really started to look for. And I just remembered his name, and I don't want you to miss out on him, because he's one of the greats, probably like my favorite out of all of these guys when it comes to some of the things that he says about high ticket, especially. And that is Myron Golden, right? Myron Golden, MYRON GOLDEN. Myron Golden. Search his name and just search for high ticket closing, and you'll find some of the things that he says about high ticket closing. He's a guy who literally has a $1 million offer that he's actually sold, right? He sells offers at $300,000 each for 1 day. This guy is like a master when it comes to high ticket. So yeah, I would definitely watch his content. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's great. It's crazy. A couple other ones over here. We got Taylor Welsh on the left-hand side. Again, he's quite young. He has been a consultant for a long period of time. You can watch his content on YouTube, and you'll definitely learn a lot about sales just from his free content as well. And then on the right-hand side, this has been, more of a personal relationship that I've been able to develop and have with Balazs W. Cardos, who is right now pioneering the way when it comes to high ticket automated closing that is done online throughout the world with just average people. So yeah, I absolutely love his content. Again, like he has a lot that you can consume for free, but his paid programs are great too, which I've been able to get myself into. So yeah, this is what I would recommend when it comes to high performance, making sure that you are staying at the top of the game and you are becoming the number one in the industry. So that's what you want. If you want to become one of the best, then everything that you got from this video, this is one of the videos that you want to watch again and again. Make sure that it's internalized and you're not forgetting anything that's in here. And don't ignore what's in here either. Like if you don't like roleplay, for example, but you want to become the best, don't ignore roleplay just because you don't like it. Do it. Pay the price. And I guarantee you it's going to be so worth it. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one as well.